Shalom Aleichem, Erev Tov, good evening. For those who are just coming in, we're beginning with the source sheet titled Mishpat Tzedek Shemot 23 in the Google Classroom. I would like to dedicate tonight's shiur for the Refuah Shlema of my dear friend, Zamir ben Nechama. Shabbat Refuah Shlema, B'ezrat Hashem Yitbarach, and only hear good news. We are almost done with this source sheet. And while I was preparing the source sheet, I really wanted to finish the whole thing today. As you know, I'm traveling to Eretz Yisrael next week. And I'm not going to be here for 3 Mondays in a row. And I figured, let me finish this before I go. But as I was preparing the shiur, I came across something that was interesting to me. I'm still not sure how I feel about it, but it was interesting to me. And I felt like it's worth sharing it here today. And worst comes to worst, we'll finish the source sheet when I get back. It's not the end of the world. B'ezrat Hashem. But for right now, I want to focus on a different element of the pasuk that we have not spoken about until now. If you have a Rambam, you want to open it up to the Laws of Sanhedrin, chapter 20. If you're using my source sheet, we're in source 17. It says Rabbeinu Rambam, chapter 20, the Laws of Sanhedrin, Halacha 1. En bet din oneshin bumdan hadat. The bedin never punishes with what's called umdan hadat. What is umdan hadat? Someone help me with the words. With their own reasoning, with their own logic. We don't decide the law when it comes to these penalties with our own logical conclusions. El al pi edim, but only with witnesses, biraya berura, who saw clearly what it was that happened. So we don't rely on our thoughts, our feelings, the evidence that points to the fact that this person is guilty. When we rule halakha, the halakha is ruled only not be'umdan hadat, rather al pi edim biraya berura, with 2 kasher witnesses who saw something clearly. Now you and I have spoken in the past about the challenge of this halakha poses. So what happens if we never execute anybody because who has 2 witnesses waiting for them, warning them? We mentioned always that in Am Yisrael, Rabbi Chaim David Halevi showed that there was always there were 2 parallel court systems: a rabbinic court system that followed halakha, and a civil court system which was given executive power by the king to mete out these consequences properly. Afilu ra'uhu ha'edim. So now, even if 2 witnesses see a person, rodef achar chavero, chasing after another person, lehorgo, to kill him, v'hitru bo, and they warned him, v'he'elimu enehem, and then they looked away, or their eyes were unable to see. For example, o shenichnas acharav lechurba. Maybe person number 2 chased person number 1 into a ruin. V'nichnesu acharav. And these 2 witnesses chase after him. Umtsa'u harug. And they find him dead. Umfarper. And he's in his death throes. והסייף מנטף דם ביד ההורג. And the one who killed him is holding a sword with blood on it. הואיל ולא ראוהו בעת שהיכהו, but because they did not see him when he actually killed him, אין בדין הורגין בעדות זו. The bedin is unable to execute a person with this evidence, even though there are two witnesses. ועל זה וכיוצא בו, and about this and all that is included in it, similar to it, נאמר, it says, ונקי וצדיק אל תהרוג. And an innocent and righteous person you are not allowed to kill. How does this make you feel, this halakha? It's not the first time we've discussed it, but it is the first time we're reading it together. That's a question. Now you get to answer.
Well, there's the implication. I think it's a little frustrating that from the implication we can't really act on it. But I hear why the halakha is being like that, though. So we don't make rash decisions, maybe.
Okay, so I mean, there's a technicality. The technicality is we need two witnesses, but he got off on a technicality.
Yeah, and that's it. And that's a little frustrating, it's just...
Rabbi Yaakov, I'm going to push you hard now. So then justify the proof text the Rambam uses. What's the proof text the Rambam uses from the Mikra?
Unfortunately, I don't have the text in front
of
me.
V'naki v'tzadik al taharov. You cannot kill an innocent and righteous person.
Right, innocent until proven guilty. Right. Unfortunately, the system today is not like that. But yeah, I hear why we're saying that. I mean, you didn't see it with your own two eyes. Not so. Why would you risk killing somebody who was completely innocent and being completely wrong in your judgment? I hear what he's saying. Where he's coming up.
Okay, so that's how you feel. I want to hear someone else's thoughts.
It's Henny.
Hi, Henny.
Hello. Isn't it because of the original sentence that he's forming his own opinion, and therefore you can't jump to that conclusion because it's forbidden?
Very good. So we're letting this person off the hook for murder because we have a restriction that we can't judge him based on our own logical conclusions. We need two kasher witnesses that saw him, that warned him, and he killed the person anyways, and we saw the person who killed the other person. So let me ask the chevra in the classroom, can you give me another scenario where, let's say we are witnesses, we see one person chasing another person with a knife, and then we come into the ruin and we see one person holding a knife full of blood and another person on the floor dead. Give me a way in which that person is innocent from the crime that just happened.
There was a scuffle inside the building, and the person who ran in first knocked over attacked the second person who was chasing him with a knife, and he went and he stabbed himself, and the second guy went and he picked up the knife. So it was really a suicide, but it was an attempted. It looked like a murder.
So it was a suicide that is disguised as a homicide. Let's say the person is actually trying to kill themselves. And now this person is trying to take away the knife from them, but they're not successful. Or they pulled out the knife. Now, I'm not telling you that's proper medical procedures to pull out a knife from a stab wound. Likely the opposite is true. Likely the knife should stay inside until medical attention is able to be given to the person. But let's say they pulled out the knife to save their life. They thought that's what they were doing. And now what do we see? We see them kneeling over a dead body, holding a knife full of blood. The blood matches, fingerprints on the knife match the guy who pulled the knife out. The blood on the knife matches the dead body there. In a normal court of law, they would argue, look, this guy's guilty of murder. But not in a bedin. In a bedin, we have to let him off the hook. V'naki v'tzadik al taharov. Okay, let's keep reading. Rabbeinu Rambam continues, V'chen, a completely different scenario, also one that has capital punishment attached to it, but maybe one that you're less emotionally invested in. It's not murder. It's something that maybe less you'd be interested in executing people for. V'chen im heidu alav shnayim she'avad avodah zarah. If two witnesses come about our friend, let's give him a name. Choose a name that nobody in this classroom has.
Ploni Almoni.
Okay, Peloni Almoni. For sure nobody has. Peloni comes. We see Peloni served avodah zarah. זה ראה שעבד את החמה והתרה בו. What's the consequence for worshipping avodah zarah? What's the penalty in a bedin?
Skida, I think.
I mean, it's a capital crime, no?
Blinding.
Why is it a capital crime? He didn't kill anybody.
They didn't. Wasn't there a capital punishment over by the Chet HaEged? Hold on.
I'm asking you a question. Why by avodah zarah is it a capital crime?
Because it's a threat to the civil structure, to
How-
the rulers.
How?
Because you're worshiping something that isn't the highest power in the land.
Okay. Honey, I don't know if you were in a shul with me or not, but when you have a person worshipping avodah zarah, in general, avodah zarah is not a religious crime. Avodah zarah is most similar in the legal structure that you're familiar with to the crime of treason. And avodah zarah usually meant pledging allegiance to another nation, a nation that served the sun, a nation that served the moon, a nation that served Baal, a nation that served whatever avodah zarah was at the time. Serving avodah zarah inside of the land means that you're pledging allegiance to a power that is not the Jewish government. It's why it was so important for our enemies. Yesterday we mourned Shivasa B'Tammuz to put a tzelem b'hechal, to put an idol in the sanctuary of Am Yisrael. Why do you care about putting an idol there? It would be it would be like putting a flag of another nation on top of the Capitol building, especially if it was an enemy nation. Here you have an act that is intended to undermine all of society, and therefore it carries with it a civil penalty. There was a pastor, Jonathan Mayhew, I think his name was. Chacham Faor mentions him in the beginning of the Gospel according to the Jews, who wrote a little snippet on this idea of why in the Jewish text the avodah zarah comes across with a national penalty. Chesky, I saw you unmuting yourself.
So is that for the desire in Judaism? Is that only for idolatry that's for foreign gods, or even for idolatry for
Very good. Min hastam, we're talking about avodah zarah across the board. But when trying to understand the rationale of it, it's similar to Chacham Faor argues, and it's very difficult for me to justify this with the rest of halachic literature, but argues about Rabbeinu Bachya is of the opinion that avodah zarah, a non-Jew is only forbidden to worship avodah zarah in the borders of Eretz Yisrael. Because in the borders of Eretz Yisrael, he's not allowed to be pledging allegiance to a foreign entity. Outside of Eretz Yisrael, we don't care what he does. It doesn't matter. Between him and HaKadosh Baruch Hu. It doesn't take away from the details that fall into these mitzvot. I'm sharing an idea, so it could be you're right either way. And I would argue that inside of avodah zarah, you have classic idol worship, like avodat Elilit, bowing down to rocks, sticks, stones, moon, sun. And you have a more refined understanding of avodah zarah, which is serving HaKadosh Baruch Hu in a way that is foreign to how Am Yisrael serves HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So two people come to the Bedin, and they say, we saw Ploni serving... Are there balloons on my screen? How does that happen? So, okay. Who saw avodah zarah? Saw some worship avodah zarah.
You can take off these filter effects. If you make the thumbs up, it shows us a light. And if you make these, it'll show us peace signs. And
This must be new because I've been using Zoom now for many years. I never saw this before.
it's a FaceTime reaction feature. It's a new AI. It detects if you make like the heart with your hands, the screen will blow up with pink hearts.
Okay. No, Baruch Hashem. Bring some color to the Beit HaMidrash. זה ראו שעבד את החמה והתרה בו. This person sees that somebody is worshiping the sun, and he warns him, but it's one witness. And this one saw him worshiping the moon, and he warned him. We don't join these two witnesses together, meaning we have two witnesses that Peloni served Avodah Zarah. But how many do we have for the sun? One. How many for the moon? One. And therefore, separate cases, you can't join them together. Shenema, like it says, V'naki v'tzadik antarog, and an innocent and righteous person, you cannot kill them. Ho'il v'yesham tzad lenakoto v'lioto tzadik, because there is a way, there is an instance in which you can exonerate this person and he will be innocent. Al tahargehu, you cannot kill him. So for the slim, we are in this interesting halakha here, which essentially says that the Bet Din's hands are tied in any situation where there may be even an unreasonable chance that somebody will be exonerated because of a crime that they have committed, but because there's not enough, not a kasher witness, or not enough witnesses that are kesherim, or the witnesses who are kesherim didn't see enough, meaning there's room for an unreasonable doubt even. Not arguing it's reasonable, for an unreasonable doubt that this person didn't actually commit the crime that they're being accused of. Or even if the crime was committed, but both people saw somebody serve Avodah Zarah. Nonetheless, what happens? One saw them serve one kind of Avodah Zarah, one saw the other kind of Avodah Zarah. That means we can't execute them, because though they're guilty of a crime, but they're not the same charges, and because of that, we have to let them off the hook. Now, you should know, this halakha, we've discussed it from a legal perspective. From a halachic perspective, we've already answered that the Bet Din has to offer what we call Mishpat Tzedek, meaning the law has to be absolutely tzedek. What defines what is tzedek? The Torah. The Torah says that there'll be two witnesses that will execute a person. That's what the Torah defines as tzedek. But what happens in society when people begin to notice that, listen, unless I bring two witnesses, and unless they're over the age of bar mitzvah, and that they're men, and that they're Jewish, and that they saw exactly what I saw, exactly what I did, then I'll always get off the hook. So what's going to happen in a society where everybody can get away with murder, literally? So already Rabbi Chaim David Hanavi showed us that there are two court systems. And that answers the question of what happened. The court system can decide, the Beit Din says, I can't deal with it. Within the boundaries of Torah, I cannot deal with it. But the king, who's charged with preserving order in society, he can take care of you. He can execute a person without due process. And there are court systems that they have their own process that have the power of the king. Let's call it a civil court system who can take care of this from here. I wanted to zoom out backwards because that last point we discussed in the early days of Mishpat Tzedek. Right now, when I was preparing the shiur, something didn't sit right with me about these halachot. And I'm not sure that the piece I'm about to introduce you to sits any better with me. So I'm being honest. I usually wait until I process information and then sit with it and spend days, weeks, months trying to see, does it really sit well with me or not. But I felt that I couldn't wait that long, because if I wait until next week, I won't be here, and then it'll be 3 weeks, and it'll be Elul, and then who knows what will happen. It'll be after Sukkot, Tishrei. It's gonna be too long for now for us to even process this. And I saw a unique chacham who wrote on this topic, and I can't tell you that I agree entirely with his sentiments, but there's something profound about them, and if not correct on a national halachic level, there is definitely what to learn from his writings that is relevant to the time period that you and I are in right now, the Ben HaMetzarim, between Shiva Asar B'Tammuz and the 9th Tisha B'Av. So, if you'll do me a favor, go out of the source sheet that I just shared with you, and look at the last link that's in the Zoom link. It says there, Mishpat Tzedek, circumstantial evidence. So, I want to take your attention to the origin of the Rambam's halakha. The origin of Rabbeinu Rambam's halakha is what you have there in the first source. Tanya. This is from. I don't have the right source sheet in front of me. Is the last source sheet open for you? Yeah?
Opened up the Safari. Is that the
Yeah.
where it's supposed to go to?
What does it say on top of the page? Which Gemara? We're quoting from Masachet Shavuot.
Sanhedrin on Zion.
Sanhedrin Lamed Zayin. I don't have, for whatever reason, it's not opening the right sources to me. Okay. Chachamim say the following. Tanya. Amar Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach. Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach said, Ere benechama. It's an opposite language. I will not see the consolation of Yerushalayim, of Israel. Im lo raiti echad sheratz achar chavaro lechuba. If I did not see a person once upon a time chase his friend into a ruin. By his friend, we mean his fellow. V'ratzti acharav, and I chased after him. V'reiti saif biyado, and I saw a sword in his hand. V'damon metaftef, and the blood was dripping from the sword. V'harug mefarper, and a dead body was on the ground. Mefarper. Death rose is a good word, like a parpar, like a butterfly. V'amarti lo, and I told him, Rasha, you evil person. Mi haragol hazeh. Who killed this guy? O ani o ata. It was either me or you. Meaning, there's nobody else here. Aval ma e'aseh. But what could I possibly do? She'en damecha masur biyadi. That your blood is not given over to me, meaning your life is not in my hands. Shari amra Torah, because the Torah already said, Al pi shenaim edim yumat hamet, that based on two witnesses, the person will be executed. Hayodea machshavot yipar'a me'oto ha'ish sheharag et chavero. May the one who knows the thoughts of man punish the one who killed his friend. Amu Rabbi say, Lo zazu misham ad sheba nachash v'hikisho v'met. They did not move from that place, and a snake came along and bit this man, and he died. So what's the story? Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach, he sees a man kill somebody else, but he doesn't actually see the killing. It's the exact same story of the Rambam. He's one witness. He says there are only two choices. Which of us killed him? It for sure wasn't me. So who was it? It was you. But I can't execute you because I'm only one person, and I didn't see the actual act of murder. And I'm going to add here, I didn't catch you in time. If Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach had come into the ruin and seen him about to stab the other guy, what could he have done?
He could have saved the victim by killing the murderer.
Of course, a din or death, he could have saved him. But even that he can't do now, because now somebody's dead. What can a person do? He said, so you're essentially going to get off the hook because of technicalities. But may HaKadosh Baruch Hu judge you. And immediately what happens? A snake comes, bites the person, the murderer, and he dies. So there is a happily ever after ending to the story. Nonetheless, you see in the story, Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach was helpless to do anything in terms of justice, law, order of the land. There are many questions that come up in this Gemara. Rabbi Chaim David Hanavi, in his commentary on the Mishneh Torah, brings up many of those questions. There are some other things that come out of the story. Harav Uziel has a teshuvah. In the end of the 6th volume of the teshuvah, he has an interaction with the chief rabbi of Tveria, Rabbi Yaakov Chai Zrihan. I think I said his name right. And he was arguing with Rabbi Harav Uziel about what was needed in order to execute people. Can you rule halakha based on prophecy? He tries to bring, Chachamim bring a proof. Moshe Rabbeinu is told by Kadosh Baruch Hu, Lech red, go down. Why? Ki? Where's my father or mother? Somebody. Very good. Ki shichet amecha. Because your nation has done something horrible. And Moshe Rabbeinu, he goes down, and then he sees, and then he breaks the tablets. And our rabbis in Talmud Yerushalmi, Masechet Tanit, in the fourth section there, our Chachamim are concerned, why did Moshe Rabbeinu wait till he got down to the mountain? Why he didn't trust HaKadosh Baruch Hu? He had to go see it for himself. Because in general, you can't, there are a few different answers that are given there, you can't rule halachot based on evidence that you've heard. You have to see what's actually being done. So it's not enough that you heard, even if it's HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have to also go and verify any source of information. Moshe Rabbeinu first went to verify, which is something incredible. Moshe Rabbeinu goes to verify what HaKadosh Baruch Hu tells him. Can you imagine another religion where you say God tells people something? They say, wait, God, 1 second, we're going to go verify. But Rav Uziel explains there, like our Chachamim say, that HaKadosh Baruch Hu, through Moshe Rabbeinu, was teaching us Derech Eretz. Never believe something about somebody else until you verify it first. But at the end of the day, we're left here with what seems like a gaping hole in the Mishpat Tzedek, in the righteous part of righteous law, because of a law that is trying to make us so righteous that murderers get off the hook. So if you look with me, skip the next few sources, and go with me to the source that is titled, I printed a source sheet, comes with no titles. It's going to be source, not 1, not 2, 3, source number 5. What does it say? What is it titled over there, source number 5?
Mishpat.
No.
Outside like a social.
Yeah. Justice in the Jewish state according to the Torah, otherwise known in Hebrew as, thank you, as, I just closed it. Today, HaKadosh Baruch Hu needs to help me out a little bit. Otherwise known in Hebrew as HaTzedek HaSoциali VaTzedek HaMishpati VaMusari Shelanu. This is a book that was written by a unique Ashkenazi rabbi by the name of Rabbi Moshe Avigdor Amiel. The book looks like this. I don't actually own a copy, I just have it as a PDF. I'm happy to send the PDF to whoever would want. It's a very short book. You can buy it, like a scanned version of it from Amazon for $3 or $4. Not a lot of money. It's in Hebrew. Anyone know anything about Rabbi Moshe Avigdor Amiel?
He was from Harris,
So I think later in history, he gets some kind of connection, like they name institutions after him. But his own personal life, he was born in Grodno, in Russia. Was a Chacham who learned by some of the great minds of the last generation. Was born in 1882. He passes away in March of 1945. Rav Amiel was a unique Chacham who really became a major thinker of the Mizrahi movement. And was a Hogeh Deot, was like a philosopher for the early religious Zionist thinkers that were in Eretz Yisrael. Rav Amiel was perhaps most famous for changing the trajectory of the life of Rabbi Soloveitchik, the one from New York. At the time, when the chief rabbi of Tel Aviv had passed away, there were 3 candidates for chief rabbi of Tel Aviv. And one of them was Rav Amiel, one of them was Rabbi Herzog, and one of them was Rabbi Soloveitchik from America. And politically, he never had a chance. I mean, as an American rabbi, he was also at the time, very interesting, at the time was the least Zionist of the 3 candidates who were there. Rabbi Soloveitchik was not even involved yet in the Mizrahi and all of the things that happened later in his life. And it didn't stand a chance to be elected in those days. But there's an article, someone I learned Torah with, I don't actually know where he is in the world now, Rabbi Eli Michel, wrote an article about this period of history. Rabbi Amiel was a very unique Chacham. And as a unique Chacham, he was a very unique thinker. I use the word unique because he didn't buy into any forced ideas that other people made him read. Even if I can give you an example of something that he wrote on his commentary to the Torah. He has a book called Dirashot Elami, Sermons to My People or to My Nation. It may have been translated to English, but for sure it exists in Hebrew. He has, in the book of Bereshit, it says Yaakov Avinu, he returns back because he forgot something. What did he forget?
Pachim ketanim.
Pachim ketanim. Little things, little trinkets. I don't know exactly they were, but Pachim ketanim. So, the Pachim Ketanim Yaakov Avinu goes to get. Our rabbis tell us it was a positive thing he went back to get it. And what is the positive thing we learn from Yaakov Avinu?
Appreciate everything you have.
That he appreciated everything that Kadosh Baruch Hu gave him. Tzaddikim, they care about even the little things that they own. From this, the Rabbanit can judge me favorably why I like to hold on to so many things. The Rabbanit likes to throw away clutter. I like to collect things. Because that should judge me favorably. Because maybe I'm a tzaddik like Yaakov Avinu, for sure not. And maybe I like to hold on to my Pachim Ketanim. Harav Amiel suggests in his reading something completely different. It goes against what our Chachamim say, and that's why I use the word unique. But he says Pachim Ketanim are the little things that religious Jews hold on to that are not as important as the big things. Yaakov Avinu finds himself in a fight with an angel. Vayvater Yaakov levado v'yavek ish imo adalot hashachar. There's an angel that has to force Yaakov Avinu to see the light, literally. He fights with him until he sees the light. A warning to religious people in the future, not to hold on to the Yaakov. My rabbis say, Ekev. Vaya Ekev Tishmun. What is Ekev? What does the Midrash say? Elo mitzvot.
Mitzvot that you step on.
Shadam dash, that a person steps on with his Ekev, with his heels. The little mitzvot. You have to be careful on them. But right after this episode, HaKadosh Baruch Hu changes Yaakov Avinu's name. He will not call your name anymore Yaakov, rather Israel. Why?
Because
Kisarita.
your own nation.
You fall with a star.
Because you finally reached a high level of sophistication. Rav Amiel sees in this whole story a message to Am Yisrael not to get stuck on little details, to focus on the big picture. And at that point, he was fighting for Zionism. There are all kinds of excuses people had not to be involved in Israel, not to be involved in the founding of the state of Israel. No, he said they're getting stuck on all these tiny little details. They're not focusing on the bigger picture that HaKadosh Baruch Hu has for the world. You have to, at a certain point, recognize we're no longer Yaakov. We are now Yisrael, and Yisrael means that we are in a whole new league of people. Mori Harav, he once told me, I think it's okay that I share this publicly today. My middle name is Yaakov, so I'm not speaking about anybody here. He said, if I would have been able to tell my parents to please name me Yisrael and not Yaakov, that's what he said about himself. He said Yaakov was Yaakov Avinu before he was Israel. He said he wishes he was Israel and not Yaakov.
It's about time we have a different Rabbi YY.
So we have here, and everything you say is being recorded. I'm now here in the source number 5. Let's read together. And like I told you, Rav Amiel is a new thinker to me. I can't tell you how much I feel or agree or not. I want to share with you, though, an insight that he shares here. If you'll give me the rest of our time together to do that. We started a little bit late, so I'm hopefully going to go a little bit later overtime, and you'll be okay with it. I noticed the version that is on Sefaria is slightly censored. The original version that I have in front of me has a paragraph at the end that doesn't exist here, but I'm going to read from the version you have, so as not to confuse anybody, and if I can at the end, someone reminds me, I'll tell you the last sentence that I took out. Midat ha'onashim. This is talking about the punishments and consequences of the bidin. V'davar zeh, whatever he was speaking about before, anu roim, we see be'ofen bolet limidai b'midat ha'onashim la'chotim la'poshim, regarding the consequences the Torah has for criminals. Omnam b'Torah gufa, in the Torah itself, anu motzim, we find shemidat ha'onesh, hi lefamim ktana meod umat hachet, that sometimes the consequence doesn't match the action that was done, sometimes it feels a little bit too little. Especially compared to what non-Jews would have done in those days. The mashal, for example, if we dinei Torah, according to laws of the Torah, you could steal as much as you want. The person only had to pay double. What would happen if you stole in a different country then? They cut off your arm. What happens in the Torah? You just have to pay. אבל בכל זאת, הרי סוף סוף נמצאים בתורה לא רק שכר, אך גם כן עונש. לא רק ממון, אך גם קנס, ויש בה גם דיני נפשות, סקילה, שרפה, הרג וחנק. He said, we have that problem that sometimes you see that the consequences are not as severe as they should be, but then sometimes you find some other serious consequences in the Torah. אבל במציאות, but practically, in reality, כמעט שהתבטלו אלו לגמרי. All of those consequences almost disappeared completely. גם בזמן הבית, also in the times of the Beit HaMikdash, כשישבו Sanhedrin בלשכת הגזית, when the Sanhedrin sat in לשכת הגזית, ודנו גם דיני נפשות, and they also were presiding over capital cases. גם אז, even then, ישבו ודנו רק להלכה ולא למעשה. Sometimes they discuss matters of the halakha, but they didn't actually execute people practically. שכמעט היה מן הנמנעות, it almost didn't happen. Tanya, there's the famous story of Rabbi Shimon ben Shattach that we just read. Let's skip down a few lines. מנקודת השקפה זו, from this story, אי אפשר היה כמעט לדון דיני נפשות. From this perspective, you almost can't execute anybody. כי איזה רוצח יועיל להזמין לפני רציחתו עדים כשרים ונאמנים דווקא? Which murderer, right before he murders somebody, is going to summon two witnesses, not just any witnesses, but two kasher witnesses? כדי שהסנהדרין יוכלו לקיים את המצווה של על פי שניים עדים יומת המת. Which very generous criminal is going to make sure that there are witnesses that are kasher witnesses that are going to warn him, and he will accept their warning, and therefore he can help the bedin fulfill the mitzvah of executing him. ולא די בזה, and it's not enough, אלו שהוסיפו עוד ואמרו, rabbis added to this teaching another one, שכל רוצח, that every murderer, זקוק להתראה, requires warning before he commits a crime. והוא צריך לקבל את ההתראה. He also has to not just be warned, but say, yes, I understand that if I kill this person, I will be guilty. זאת אומרת, that means, שאם שתק או הכין בראשו פטור, if he was silent or moved his head, אפילו אמר יודע אני, he says, even though I know, patur, he's still exempt from the crime, says the Rambam in the laws of Sanhedrin. עד שיתיר עצמו למיתה ויאמר, until he gives himself over to death and says, על מנת כן אני עושה, I'm doing it in order to be killed. Meaning, until the person explicitly says, kill me, because I'm going to kill this person, he's not guilty in halakha. ומי יכריח את הרוצח להגיד זה? זאת, who can possibly force the murderer to say such a thing? ואכן הדבר הגיע לידי כך, this matter reached a point, עד שבצדק אמרו חכמינו זכרונם לברכה, until our rabbis of blessed memory said, כל סנהדרין שהורגת אחת לשבוע, או אחת ל70 שנה, נקראת חבלנית. That a bedin that kills people too often is considered a horrible bedin. חבלנית probably has a better English word. ואומנם יכולים אנו לתאר, a murderous bedin, maybe you would say. ואומנם יכולים אנו לתאר לעצמנו כמה היה מספר הנידונים למיתה הבית הנאורה הזאת, אם היו מחזיקים בכלים הללו. You can imagine in our generation, how many people would possibly be executed by a bedin if we had these rules today? כי מי אינו יודע, who doesn't know, שבזמננו, that nowadays, כל הנידונים למיתה המה רק על פי אומדנה, ולא רק אומדנה דמוכח. Today people are killed only based on circumstantial evidence and not always the best of the evidences. If you said now in the American court system that every criminal that didn't have two witnesses who were men, who were over the age of 13, who were bar mitzvah, let's get rid of those requirements, just two witnesses, who saw them commit the crime, who warned them, and the criminal said, yes, I know and I accept the consequence upon myself, and then proceeds to commit the crime. How many people would actually be charged with the crime? Who would be left? Almost everything in the world is closed with some type of circumstantial evidence. אכן גם דיני נפשות אלו נתבטלו עוד בזמן שבית המקדש היה קיים. Already we find in the Talmud that these kinds of laws already in the times of the Mikdash, we stopped executing people. כ-40 שנה קודם חורבן בית שני, בטלו דיני נפשות מישראל. That already 40 years before the destruction of the second Beit HaMikdash, the Sanhedrin stopped executing people. מפני שגלו הסנהדרין, ולא היה שם במקומם במקדש, because the Sanhedrin was exiled and there was nobody there in the Mikdash. ואחר כך, אחר החורבן, התבטלו גם דיני קנסות מפני שאין בית דין סמוכים. The Rambam mentions in the 14th chapter that already we even got rid of the other penalties, not just the penalties of murder, of capital crime. ורואים אנו מכוח זה, כי הוצאת העונשים מכוח אל הפועל, הייתה קשה עלינו מאוד. We find that there was something holding Am Yisrael back from committing criminals to capital punishments. עד שחיפשו בכל התצדקות שבעולם להשתמט מזאת. And we found every tzedek, every excuse in the world, every little reason not to kill a person. וכשמחפשים, מוצאים, and trust me, when you look for excuses, you'll find them. וכל כך למה? Why were the Batei Din, why were our Chachamim so wary of executing people? I told you don't have to agree with Rav Amir. What I'm trying to share today is a different idea, something you haven't heard yet in this Beit Midrash, a different voice that maybe is relevant to the time period that we're in right now. מפני שכל עונש ועונש בא לא כל כך בשביל החטא. Because every one of these consequences that we give a criminal, it doesn't really come because of the crime itself. כי מי יכול ללמוד במידה ישרה את מידת העונש ומידת החטא? הלא, אין מידה ומשקל בזה, אלא שהעונש בעיקר בשביל העתיד. Usually, the consequence of a crime is for the future. למען ישמעו ויראו, so that other members of society know, listen, if a murderer commits murder and somebody is dead, so now we kill him, now two people are dead. What's the point of killing another person because one person is dead? In order that other people are afraid of killing people. That's the reason. We're trying to put some fear of the law of HaKadosh Baruch Hu into society. Zot omeret, b'shvil takanat haklal. We're trying to fix society. שיוכל לחיות במנוחה, that they can live in peace. ולא יירא מאימת בעלי עבירה. They don't have to worry from criminals. I mean, we're saying a person has the right to live in a society knowing that criminals are not going to get away with murder. That I'm going to walk down the street, and if there ever is a criminal who's going to try to hurt me, that there is somebody in the world who's going to make sure that society, order will be restored to society. Does the court ever execute people mistakenly? It happens. Every court system has charged the person who's innocent. By the way, if you would like a little bit of humility in your life, a little anava. I know that you know after all these years that I am severely opposed to the Western court systems and prison systems that we have today, especially the prison system. If you want to go study about the Innocence Files, there was a Netflix documentary about the Innocence Files. It's worth your time. It is not a tool of your time. It is very useful to spend time and to watch and to learn and to see how many people are sitting in prison for crimes they did not commit. And by the way, the most horrendous part, in a beautiful country like you and I live in here, that somebody can be proven innocent after they've been in prison for 20 years. They've now been exonerated, and they still can't let them out because there's a whole process they have to go through. One guy, after another 7 years, then after court, they ruled him innocent, but because they don't have the personnel to discharge him at night, they sent him back to prison for one more night so he could be discharged in the morning. You understand? That a person who's innocent served already 20 years, now another 7 years after he was proven innocent. Now the court finally said, you know what, you really are innocent, but he can't let you out now. Technicality, you have to let you out tomorrow morning. I can imagine that one night was worse than all of the years in prison. It's the time I should be able to walk out the door. It happens all the time, but what can you do? Tehillim says, Shigiyot miyavin. You can't account for all of a person's mistakes. Mistakes happen. אין כאן רעה גדולה כל כך. You can even make an argument, it's not such a terrible thing. כהנה וכהנה תאכל החרב בשביל טובת הכלל. Many people die on the sword for the good of society. שלמענו נברא העולם. That's why the world was created. I mean, yeah, you're right. There are sometimes cases, collateral damage. You see it in a war. There are people that are otherwise innocent that die because that's part of what happens when you fight a war. And we recognize that the greater good of the people, the greater good of society, the greater good, whatever greater good you're thinking about right now, it sometimes justifies that innocent lives are lost. אבל היהדות, but Judaism, בהשקפתה, in its worldview, שכל פרט ופרט הוא עולם מלא, that every single individual person is considered a whole world. ושהכלל הוא בעד הפרט, and that the whole exists for the individual. חשה כל פעם ופעם בבואה לדון דיני נפשות, is concerned, this Judaism is concerned every time we come to capital crime. וליבה היא נוקפה מאוד בזה, and our heart trembles at this matter. כי מה תיתו לו להיפרט מה שהכלל יוכל להתענג על כל טוב, אבל הוא יהרג על לא דבר, לפרט מה שהכלל יוכל להתענג על כל טוב, אבל הוא יהרג על לא דבר. Because what comfort can you give an individual? Say, my dear friend, you are going to die, but it's for the greater good. You're going to suffer, but don't worry, it's for a better reason. There's something bigger than you in this world. How can you ever bring comfort to such a person? And the Torah is concerned about that individual. And all of our Chachamim, Yoshavim al Midin, whoever sat in the thrones of judgment, they were concerned that maybe in a bigger picture, you're right, the individual is going to suffer on behalf of the good. But I'm going to partake in that. And I worry about that. I worry about being the reason why an innocent individual will suffer for the greater good.
Didn't the Beit Yosef request to die a death of a martyr?
Say it.
Didn't the Beit Yosef requested in the to the Magid that he wanted to die the death of a martyr? So meaning to say that that's something that was looked forward to die for the greater good, to die for a bigger cause than oneself, or is that two different things?
I think one day we're going to talk about the book of the Magid, but for right now, we'll. So, what?
Yeah, he chose it. It's not if it's true. He chose it. It's not enforcing it.
If it's true, then he chose it. And martyrdom is an interesting topic in Judaism. It's worthy of a whole nother shiur, but it's not for right now.
Is it more for like the giving the person the chance to repent?
Yeah, but there's no chance to repent. Now he's going to be executed. I mean, we're going to say that for the greater good, sometimes people are going to die that shouldn't die.
But we could discredit the witness.
I'm talking about a case here where we are unable to discredit anybody. And right now, what's going to happen? Right now, an otherwise innocent person is going to die.
That happened to Shimon Shachar himself.
Tell me.
His son was executed because of the threatening of the witches who were going to give false testimony against him. And instead he could have saved them, but he said no, it's not going to be good for the greater good. It uses his privilege to save him, even though everyone knows he's innocent. But since all the rules of the Torah was followed, and he's going to go willingly with his death.
You know, Chesky Rav Amiel is going to take this all personally out on Rav Shimon ben Shadach. You added now another thing he didn't mention. But all of this is going to claim as a personal shita of Rabbi Shimon ben Shadach. This is his life. Let's read together. V'harei lo ki dinei mamonot. The Mishnah says that dinei mamonot is not like dinei nefashot. Financial matters are not like capital crime matters. Dinei mamonot, adam noten mamono mitkaper lo. By financial matters, you give your money. Okay, so you lost the money. That's it. Dinei nefashot, when it comes to matters of taking a life. Damo v'dam zaro tluim bo. At sof kol ha'olam. His blood and his children's blood and his descendants' blood until the end of time. Shobekain ne'emar. By Kain it says, Kol demei achicha tzoakim. The voice of your brother's bloods, meaning which blood? All of the blood, the future families that would have come out of this person, are all crying. Damo v'dam zaro. Lefichach nivra adam yechid ba'olam. למדך to teach you שכל המאבד נפש אחת מן העולם מעלין עליו כאילו איבד עולם מלא. That anybody who kills even one person has killed the whole world. Because Adam HaRishon was born one. One person is the whole world. וכל המקיים נפש אחת בעולם. Then anybody who saves one life in the world, מעלין עליו כאילו קיים עולם מלא. It's like you've saved the whole world. הרי כל באי העולם בצורת אדם הראשון הם נבראים, ואין פני כל אחד מהם דומים לפני חברו. לפיכך כל אחד ואחד יכול לומר בשבילי נברא העולם. The reason why a person can say the world was created for me is because I'm a unique individual. My face is not like your face, and your face not like her face, and her face not like his face, because all of us exist here for a reason. We are all an entire world. ואומנם רבן שמעון בן גמליאל תבע בזה את עלבונו של הכלל. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, he demanded the benefit of the well-being of all the people. V'ta'an Rabbi Tarfon v'Rabbi Akiva, and he argues with Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva. Shamru, ilu hayinu b'Sanhedrin, lo neherag adam me'olam. Rabbi Tarfon and Rabbi Akiva were famous for saying that if we were on the Sanhedrin, nobody would ever be executed. Meaning, we would always find a way to let them off the hook. Ki gam ze inenu nachon klal. Rabbi Shimon ben Gamliel said it's also not a correct attitude. And he said about them in Masechet Makot, Af hem marbim shofchei damim b'Yisrael. They are the reason why there will be more murderers in the Jewish people. If you let everybody off the hook, then for sure crime will skyrocket. But this is an old argument between HaChamim. Aval en halacha kemoto bazeh. But halacha is not like him in this manner. Ulam hayadut hamikorit, the original Judaism. That's an interesting word to use. היהדות הנלחמת בחוכמת יוונית מימי עולם ומשנות דור ודור. Judaism that is forever fought against Greek wisdom in all the generations. ידעה knows שאין ספק מוציא מידי ודאי. מסכת יבמות, the rabbis tell us that a doubt never overrides something which is known for certain. When you have a ודאי and a ספק, you always choose the ודאי, not the ספק. מפני פן ירבו שופכי דמים בעתיד. And just because in the future there will be more murderers, you can't now execute innocent people today because you don't want in the future that maybe there will be more murderers. We find another argument with Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel in a similar matter. Also over there, halacha is not like him. By Eruvin, we have the following discussion. Rabbi is of the opinion, it's good for a Tamich Chacham that he should commit a small avera, in order so that Am Haaretz, an ignoramus, does not commit a big avera. Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel savar, no, it's better that a Tamich Chacham shouldn't commit any avera. Let a Amaretz do a big avera. You can look at the context there. If you want to look up the Gemara, you can look at Eruvin. But it's better that a Tamich Chacham shouldn't commit any averot, especially not to save an Amaretz. Uvetzedek amar hazeh Rabbi, makes sense. Rabbi says, Nirim divrai midivrei Abba. My words seem to make more sense than that of Abba. Ki musar hayadut hamekorit shetamtzito hu may de'alach sane lechavarach la ta'aved. What it says in Masechet Shabbat, that which you hate to other people, don't do to others. What you hate being done to you, don't do to others. Lo yuchal להסתפק בזה. שהוא נזהר אף באיסורה כלילה. אם על ידי זה יגרום שחברו יעבור לאיסורה רבה. He can't live knowing that I'm going to cause someone else to do an עבירה. וכיוצא בזה אנחנו מוצאים בבא קמא. We find in Masechet בבא קמא. By kerem revai. Someone want to tell me anything about the halachot of kerem revai? Okay, you don't have to. היו מציינים אותו בכזוזות. they would mark this with, the Gemara there's a question, patches of mud or with sticks, but they would mark the food that was not allowed to be eaten so that people would know not to eat it. Biksuzat adama simana. So they would put earth, mounds of earth, v'shel orla b'charsit, simana kecharsit. Ma charsit ana mina, av ha delet hana mine. אמר רבי שמעון בגמליאל, במי דברים אמורים, בשביעית ההפקר ננהו. אבל בשער שני שביעית הליטהו לרשע וימות. You would mark all of the fruits that people shouldn't eat. If it was orla, you would put pottery. If it was everything, you would mark that people should know what's good to eat and what's not to eat. Says Rabban Shimon Gamliel, that only applies in the year of Shivit, in the 7th year. Why in the 7th year? If I have a garden, and I know which fruits of my garden are in their 3 years, do I know which of the fruits of the garden are within the first 3 years? I planted them, yeah? So I should know. So do I have to mark my own garden, eat from this tree, don't eat from that tree? Do I have to do that?
Yes.
Why do I have to do that?
For the other people, not for you.
But which other people are coming to my garden?
The harvest will be greater than what you can consume, so you'll have to take it.
So then I will have to give it to somebody else. But why do I have to put up signs for other people? Which other people are coming to my...
Make a mistake.
No, but I remember.
Really?
Well, they can trust you. The people who eat from your tree.
Who are the Chachamim worried about?
The Aniyim, the Amaretz.
They're worried about the thieves. What if somebody steals your fruit? But they didn't know they're going to be stealing something that is forbidden for them to eat. So you have to mark it for the people that are coming to steal from your fields. Says Rabban Shimon Gamliel, nah, I don't agree. In the 7th year, where everybody comes to eat from your field because you don't own it really, so that's when you mark the fruits. But if it's just a regular year, why in the world do I have to take care? Let the evil person, you're stealing, you know what? You can get a crime of Orla also. I don't care about you. You're not my problem. Says the Talmud, Vatznu'in, and the modest people, the Talmidei Chamim. מניחים את המעות ואומרים כל הנלקח מזה מחולל המעות הללו. This is already another sugya about how you consecrate things onto coins. But they would make a special plan so that even the people who are stealing are not committing another crime of eating food that is forbidden to them. This halakha, this phrase, halitehu larasha vayamot, let an evil person eat it and die. What do I care about the evil people? Zeu bemet muzar me'at leruchenu. This is a little bit strange to our spirit, the spirit of Israel. Valken, lamrot kevodo hagadol shel Rabban Shimon b'Gamliel, that even with all the respect that our rabbis have to Rabban Shimon b'Gamliel, מצאו חכמינו זכרם לברכה להוסיף על זה, כי הצנועים לא נהגו כך במעשה. That they added, our rabbis, that the humble ones, the modest ones, they didn't act like Rabban Shimon b'Gamliel. אך חיפשו תחבולות ועצות גם לרשע הזה להקטין את חטאיו עד כמה שאפשר. They tried to minimize the sins of the other person as much as they could. כי גם הוא בכלל כושל. אם כי כושל רוחני. ועד כמה שאתה אפשר לך להצילו, אינך מחויב. He's a stumbling person, and spiritually stumbling. And as much as you could save him, you should try to save him. Your article ends there. In the original edition, there's one more sentence that I'm afraid to read to you, so I shouldn't go to Gehenna. But I'll read it to you anyways, and I would just tell you, I wouldn't write it. B'kitzur, in short, says Rav Amiel, ברבן שמעון בגמליאל, אנו מוציאים מעט השפעת המלכות הזרה, שהוא היה קרוב אליה, וגם החוכמה היוונית שהתירו לו. He blames the whole worldview of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel on the fact that he was close to the occupation. He was close to the non-Jewish government, and that our rabbis famously allowed Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel to study Greek wisdom. אבל חוכמת ישראל חולקת על זה לגמרי. But the pure, unadulterated wisdom of the Jewish people argues completely with the opinion of Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel. And that's why in the beginning I already told you I'm not sure how I feel about this piece. But when I was reading this piece, part of me wanted to share this one idea that was here. When talking about Mishpat Tzedek, and I'm going to ask you to forgive me today for all the distractions that came in the shiur. I was wondering, maybe I'm not supposed to have shared any of this. We're in a time between the fast of the 17th and the fast of the 9th. And we know that Am Yisrael suffers in this time period, not because of murder and not because of Avodah Zarah and not because of Gilui Arayot. The Beit HaMikdash was rebuilt after 70 years for those crimes. But what our Chachamim tell us is Sinat Chinam. They translate it as baseless hatred. It was a very special Ashkenazi Chacham, Rabbi Naftali Tzvi Yehuda Berlin, Alav Shalom. The Netziv, they call him. There's a book talking about censorship. There's a book called My Uncle the Netziv, but there's a censored version, and that's the one that you can get. But the original version, Berlin is connected to the Bar Ilan family, the same family, essentially. The Netziv and his son, yeah? In the introduction to Rabbi Meir Bar Ilan is the son of the Netziv, Chesky?
Yeah,
Son or a nephew?
the son from his second wife.
Okay. I remember there was something. Okay, thank you for clarifying that. The Netziv in the introduction to the Chumash, he writes, the Sinat Chinam of the, and I wish I had a Ha'emek Davar in front of me now. The Sinat Chinam that our rabbis talk about is a Sinat Chinam where you saw other people who were worshipping HaKadosh Baruch Hu that was, in a way that was different than you. And you automatically suspected them of being heretics. In that generation of the second Mikdash, we had so many breakaway groups of Jews that we were concerned about everybody. Everybody was an Amin, everybody was a Tzedoki, everybody was a something. We didn't know what everybody was, and we became purists for our own. You have to be like me, you have to think like me, or else you must be a kofar. So that kind of sinat chinam, what it causes ruin to the world. It causes yishuv ha'aretz, he writes, becomes destroyed. Because if we can't get along with each other, then how in the world are we going to survive? I think that sometimes we, especially in this shiur, when we study the Rambam, we study the laws, we develop this attitude of let justice reign all the way through, let the law conquer all, let the murderer be killed. I'm not telling you that it's incorrect. I'm not telling you it's incorrect. I think there was a sensitivity that Chachamei Yisrael had, a sensitivity that if I was sitting on the Sanhedrin, says Rabbi Akiva, I would get everybody off the hook. If I was sitting in the Sanhedrin, I would make sure that nobody was charged with murder. Why would you say such a thing? Don't you know that murderers will increase in the world? What about the greater good? What about, we'll make mistakes, but you know what? Overall, in the long scheme of things, a few innocent lives lost to keep order in society. Chacham has a hard time going to sleep at night like that. Has a hard time saying that's okay with me. Collateral damage is okay with me. Maybe the law justifies it, and maybe that's practically what has to be done. But to still have a trepidation where human life is valuable to you, where the life of a person that's standing in front of you, even if you think he's a murderer, even if he's holding a knife that's dripping with blood, that person is also deserving of our consideration, of our compassion. And it doesn't mean that the halakha changes. It doesn't mean that we now cut off his head. It means that the sensitivity of spirit that we are looking for in Chachamim is one that is really sensitive, one that is sophisticated, one that is nuanced. We're in the 3 weeks right now, and I'm giving Musar, for me officially, we're taking a break for the next 3 weeks, and I want to leave you with an idea. I don't know if I'll have a chance to make any shiurim while I'm in Israel or just send videos that are recorded. I'm not sure yet. I hear the political, I would call it dialogue, but it's not dialogue. It's just everybody screaming at everybody. In this country, in Eretz Israel, I see it everywhere. And I see that no matter what people believe and what people think and the nuance is gone. The sophistication is gone. The thought that maybe the person on the other side of the aisle is not a traitor, is not an enemy, is not trying to destroy me from within. Maybe the person on the other side has some validity to their point, even if I don't agree with it. Do I understand it? Have I internalized its value? Can I look and say, Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, I understand you. If you were not the tough chacham that you are, people are going to die. Because more murderers will be created. Instead of looking at Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon as people who want to let all the criminals into the streets, maybe you see two chachamim that care so much about people. Maybe they think that if the legal system has compassion on criminals, maybe that criminal, the hardened criminal standing in front of a court, who knows the court just wants to throw away the key on him. But the judge looks him in the face and says, I believe in your humanity. I want to help you. I don't want to kill you. I'm requiring you to be rehabilitated in a different way. I want you in a house. I want you off the streets. I want you to live a productive life. Maybe you can't do that for everybody. Maybe it's not practical. That's why Rabbi Akiva says, if I was sitting in the Sanhedrin, not that when I sat in the Sanhedrin. But do we really understand each other? Or do we spend our whole life talking past each other? If I can end with a Gemara. The Gemara told us Rabban Shimon ben Shatach, alav v'shalom, the snake came and bit the murderer anyways. And the Gemara continues, I'll let you read it on your own. The Gemara continues, was he really deserving of being bitten by a snake? Is he really even a criminal in the first place? And all kinds of other stories about people who should have been executed, but they weren't, and a building collapsed, or whatever else happened. At some point in time, you also have to believe in HaKadosh Baruch Hu. I know that we, Am Yisrael, especially in this Beit Midrash, push us to be active. Be active Jews. Don't sit on your backside waiting for HaKadosh Baruch Hu to do everything. But once you've done everything that a citizen, a responsible citizen in the world can do. At what point do you say, HaKadosh Baruch Hu, I believe in you. And if this is what's supposed to happen to a person, I trust you're going to take care of it. I'm not going to spend my whole life being angry. I'm going to spend my whole life being upset at people. I'm not going to destroy the world because of my feelings and my emotions. I'm going to do what I can do. And once, like Rabbi Shimon ben Shatach says, I can't do anything more. I know you're guilty. It's definitely not me who's guilty. Okay, there must be a God in the world. There's a part of us that is required to hand the keys back to the creator of the universe in some capacity. And when I was preparing today's shiur and I was thinking of the value of finishing the source sheet, I thought that the value of teaching you this piece from Harav Amiel is perhaps more valuable. It's a different perspective. It's definitely not one that I would have written myself. But it has in it nuance. It has in it beauty. It has in it the thought process of a chacham who says, I don't want that the innocent should die because of me. Even if it's right. Even if you'll convince me that in a greater picture it's good for the world that the innocent person dies. But I'd rather a world where that didn't happen. And even if practically the keys of the Sanhedrin are given to Rabban Shimon ben Gamliel, Rabbi Akiva and Rabbi Tarfon, they can't hold back their voice. Because their voice is the voice of the Jewish people, the spirit of the Jewish people, saying every single human being on this earth, their life is valuable. And when we take that life, there is a whole world, not one life, there's a whole world of people, a future wife, children, grandchildren, great-grandchildren, of wonderful people that could have come out of that world. I'll end off with a teaching that I never quote from in the shiur. There's a fascinating piece from the Zohar. Whoever wrote the Zohar, doesn't matter. And you could argue that it's a book of Jewish wisdom. Yeah, don't get on my case. The Zohar teaches that you shouldn't pray for the wicked to die. We know that already. It's a rabbinic teaching. Yitamu chataim min haaretz, chataim velo chotaim. The famous musar that Beruria, the wife of Rabbi Meir Baal Hanes, gives him. A rabbi said, can you imagine if the greatest idolater in the world, Terach was the real deal idolater. He was like the scum of the earth. Him and his wife, they did all kinds of horrible things together. Imagine if somebody would have prayed for him to die. Some tzaddik would say, what a rasha, he should die. Says the Zohar, there would never be Avraham, nor would there be Yitzchak, nor Yaakov Avinu. Yosef Tzaddik wouldn't be born. The 12 tribes of Israel. Moshe Rabbeinu, Aaron HaKohen, David HaMelech, Shlomo HaMelech. And the Zohar says the Mashiach would never come to the Jewish people. Because there could be no Redeemer if somebody would have prayed for Terach to die. And I think about that every day. We have all kinds of feelings about populations and people and these people and those are undeserving of this and those don't deserve my compassion and those don't deserve my kindness and those and those and those and those and those. But at the end of the day, only HaKadosh Baruch Hu knows who comes out of people. We have a job to run a legal system, to run a country that follows the justice, brings justice to the world. At the end of the day, we have to know that HaKadosh Baruch Hu runs the world too. There's a teaching that comes from the East. And it says, man can count all the apples, all the seeds that are inside of an apple. But only the Creator knows how many apples can come out of a seed. And I think about that a lot. When you're dealing with another person on the street, you're dealing with somebody else, anybody, and you judge them, you see them, you're right. You're right to see a person, they look scary to you, all of your instincts tell you stay away, fine. But you can't ever do a Mishpat Tzedek on such a person. Because you don't know their heart, and you don't know who they are, and you don't know what they've been through. You don't know where they're going. You don't know who will come out of them. You don't know who their parents are, who their children are. You only know the limited picture that's in front of you right now. HaKadosh Baruch Hu is asking us to balance this feeling. This feeling of, on one hand, wanting to do justice, on the other hand, to be good. We spoke about it last week, we'll speak about it again. For right now, I'm leaving you with this thought. The world is a lot more complex than people would like to make it seem. Not all the evil in the world is as evil as you think, and not all the good in the world is as good as you think. This world has many, many, many shades to it. And the job of a Jewish person is to walk this earth with sophistication. Not to get carried away, not to get dragged into the political debates or arguments of other nations and other people. We don't speak like that. Chachamei Israel don't think like that. And whenever we make the mistake of being like them, always what happens to us? Churban Beit Midrash. Destruction of our homeland. Destruction of the temple in Israel. Because how on earth can HaKadosh Baruch Hu keep us together if we're doing everything we possibly can to undermine it? This Beit Midrash on its flag, though it has an ideology, it has a belief system, the highlight of this Beit Midrash for me is looking at everyone's faces on the screen right now. Even if not all of you put your faces on the screen. I'm going to thank all of you who do. I cannot tell you how much I appreciate being able to see you. No, I'm not guilting everybody now to turn on their screens. I'm telling you, it makes a difference when I sit here in a room and I see you. But all of the faces, and I know all the names that are here, I know your faces too, even if I don't see them right now. When I see your faces and I see, just like your faces aren't the same, and just like your families aren't the same, just like your opinions aren't the same, but you still created a place where you come to learn Torah together with myself, with the Rabbanit. It gives me hope that this world can go to a better place. That the little bit that we do, and I don't think it's a little bit, the little bit, that place that we've created in the world can be emulated by other people. That B'ezrat Hashem, one day, we can also introduce writings of Chachamim that we don't agree with necessarily, but they also have a place in the Beit Midrash. Their voices are also heard in the Beit Midrash. I pray for a day where all of our voices will be heard, until we hear the voice of Shofar Osh Mashiach, the shofar of the Redeemer who will come soon, Uval Tzion Goel, Ushaveh Pesha B'Yaakov, that God willing, a Redeemer will come to Tzion, to all those who return from wrongdoing in Yaakov, and that time should happen now. Ata takum terachem Tzion, ki et techenena, ki ba moed, the time has come. B'ezrat Hashem. Thank you for learning Torah with me.